Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
Half time in the playoffs and it's still all to play for as Bradford take a narrow lead in the first leg. We look back on the 1-0 defeat at the Valley Parade before looking forward to what is sure to be a tense encounter at Brunton Park in the second leg this weekend.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run, the old one too.
Yeah, all still to play for, Dan, isn't it? It's all very, very tight.
I could sense the chuffedness in you being chuffed that you got your words right in there in the last couple of words.
Well, I'm a bit annoyed because I was like, oh, there's a big gap here. I could have put a few more words. I could have slowed down a little bit, you know. It's every now and then you get pleased about it and you're like, oh, I could have pushed my luck a little bit more there, but there you go. Yeah, very, very tense in both playoff games, isn't it, Dan? It's very different to what you saw in at least one of the League One games, at least anyway, where Peterborough battered Sheffield Wednesday. I was watching bits of that in between, watching a bit of Hertha getting battered by Cologne and a bit of the, I think it was Partick against the Queen's Park game as well, a little bit of that. Yeah, it's certainly been interesting, hasn't it? I think it's fair to say in terms of how these players.
Yeah, well, I did fancy Salford to possibly do something, and they did. I mean, Stockport, Christ, all of a sudden they had 10 injuries.
Yeah, and it's key players as well.
Their bench was terrible.
Paddy Madden and Will Collar both being out. I think having one of them out, they might have got away with, but both of them out really, really hamstrung them. Obviously, we know that I think Wotton's out for the season now, isn't he? I think with the injury he got. So, yeah, I think they're hoping to have at least one of them two back for the second leg. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So today's episode, we are going to be looking back on the defeats at the Valley Parade. We'll also be looking ahead to the game at Brunton Park at the weekend. We'll also do the usual loan watch roundup and a tiny bit of news. There's not really much in there, really, to be honest, but we'll cover them early on. But first up, we've got to tell you about our sponsors for the season and also how you can find us on the internet, on all the podcast apps and that kind of thing, and how to get in contact with us. We'd like to say a big thank you to the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch for once again sponsoring the podcast this season. The London branch is open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, supporters games and fundraising for the club. This season they'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section. You can find out more about the London branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all good podcast apps, whether it's Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast. Basically, search for the Brunton Bugle, click subscribe, and then when a new episode comes out, you'll get a little notification to tell you to download it and listen to it at your leisure. Also, if there's an option to review on any of those apps, please do so. If you can give us a 5-star review, that'd be really lovely. It's a great way for us to get the message out about the podcast, and so more people can learn about it, and we can spread the word even more. You can also find us on social media, at Brunton Bugle, on Instagram and Twitter. If you go onto Facebook and search for the Brunton Bugle, click like as well, you can follow our page. We're also on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group and also on the Buzz Back message board, the new message board that's replaced the Cumbrians.net. And also, if you want to drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Yes, Dan, let's get into it. Before we do the news, actually, I'll just a little bit of a listener correspondence to share with you all, actually. So
that sounds official, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? It makes it sound really proper, doesn't it? There you go. Yes, so as you mentioned there, you can get in contact with us in many ways. And Chris Martin, you may remember from earlier in the season, he did one of the 60-second reviews, didn't he, I think? I can't remember which game it was for. Somewhere down south, I'm guessing, but he sent us one in from one of those. He did actually drop us an email this week. So obviously, last week's episode, we mentioned that we were accosted several times by people, weren't we? Saying, "Are you the guys from the Brunton Bugle?" after the Sutton game. And Chris dropped us a message by email saying he was one of those who did spot us at Sutton, but didn't actually speak to us because he wasn't 100% sure it was us. So, but if you think it was, just come up and say hello. If it's not, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? You know. I'm not that pillock. That's what someone will say probably. But he said he dropped an email on another matter, and he says he goes to a lot of the games on his own, and through our pod, he doesn't feel alone when he's going to games. It's a really nice thing to hear. he's mentioned the fact that he lost his dad to cancer in December and never be able to thank us all enough for the 1 hour we give them each week where they can just zone out and listen to all things Carlisle. So that's a really, really lovely thing to hear. And you know, we hope we really can help a few people through things like that. If you know, if it keeps people who live away from Cumbria as well in contact with the club, it's a really good thing, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I've had a couple of folk come up to me and say that sort of thing before, you know, so it's all appreciated.
Yeah, it's brilliant. He's also, if you haven't seen already, he's posted on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook page. Also, I think on Twitter and Instagram possibly as well. I think we've shared a couple of the posts. There's a mental health charity called Noggin Sport, and they've done some really nice Carl United bobble hats that I think all the money goes to mental health charities as a result. So if you go onto our Twitter feed, I'm pretty sure we've shared them on there, haven't we, Dan? And you can find out the details, and you can maybe get yourself one of those lovely hats for the no point for the summer, is it? It's ready for the winter. Still a few months off, that'll be. So there you go. Right, news time, Dan. First up, ticket sales for the second leg. It's going quite well, isn't it?
Yeah, club announced we're recording on Wednesday dinner time.
Yeah, not
lunchtime, Lee. Dinner time.
Always correct.
Running joke between us. I think it was early yesterday they announced that they were approaching 10,000. You would imagine that's gone through. So you're probably looking at, I would suggest by the end of Friday we'll have sold 12 and we'll still have walk-ups on the day. And also adding that 1,900 Bradford, you could be pushing 14,000, 15,000 for this.
You really could, which is fantastic. It's a great effort. The club did actually say just after the Bradford sales at the Bradford end closed, with them having sold out in just under 2 days. Again, brilliant effort from them. Some Bradford fans are not the most intelligent, are they? Shall we say?
No.
Going on Twitter, telling everybody they were buying tickets in the home, and quite often using their real names in their Twitter accounts or Facebook accounts. And so basically, the club took the home ticket sales off internet sales, with the exception of people who already have an account, and that includes people who had accounts on the previous ticket website. So you'll have had an email through saying register for the new site, basically to move your account over. So basically, as long as you've bought before off the website, you can buy online for this game. If you haven't, you have to ring the club basically to buy a ticket, don't you? So hopefully you won't have to wait too long on the phone to get through, and they will actually set up your online account.
I don't think the phone queues are as bad at the moment. Is like, no. Obviously, when things first go on sale, it can be long, and you just you leave it.
And you'd imagine that a large percentage of the people going to the game will have already bought from the club before, so will have that online account, so there won't be a massive problem, I don't think.
Yeah,
especially considering we had those bigger crowds early in the season, a couple of months ago, that will help in terms of that. So yeah, fantastic. And we're looking at we're heading on for a record home crowd for us in the playoffs, isn't it? Which would be amazing. And as we'll touch later, it'll be setting League Two records anyway. This semi-final, won't it, in terms of attendances, that kind of stuff. So there you go.
Yeah.
Loan watch then, Dan. Before we get on to talking about the first leg,
all about one man, isn't it?
Oh. What a season he's having there, but what a game he had this weekend. This midweek. Max Kilsby. Things just continue to get better and better for him and Annan Athletic. So they drew 0-0 in the second leg of the playoff against Dumbarton. So they narrowly squeaked through with a 6-0 aggregate win in that one, which put them through to the final against Clyde and on for a chance for their first ever promotion to the Scottish Football League One. And they've given themselves a brilliant chance for the second leg, haven't they, with a 3-1 win?
Yeah, and a 3-1 win courtesy of 2 super strikes from Max himself.
I mean, the first one in particular, the technique on that is wonderful, isn't it? It's almost Danny Granger-esque, isn't it? The way he's got himself over the ball, and it's a corner comes in for. Is it a corner or a cross? I can't remember anyway. It comes in from the left, and big Tommy Goss, the big striker for them, heads it back across goal. And Max comes charging in and then just sets himself. And it's not the easiest height to hit, is it, really, when you look at it? It's a good, maybe just above hip height, I'd say. Gets over the ball and absolutely smashes it into the top corner.
If you go on Annan's Twitter, you can find the footage if you haven't seen them already.
Yeah, the game was on BBC Albion. The second leg will be on Friday as well, actually. And then the second goal, there probably is a foul in the build-up that's missed, but who cares? Gets onto the edge of the box and he just strikes across it and bends it into the bottom corner almost, doesn't he? It was a lovely, lovely finish. And obviously they managed to get a third later on with a bit of a comedy own goal. And they've given themselves a hell of a good chance to get into the third tier for the first time, haven't they?
They certainly have. 3-1, it's a great lead to take. You don't have to take too many risks.
Yeah.
They're actually playing on the Friday
Yeah.
because Clyde play at Hamilton, who also have a game, I think, this weekend.
Yeah.
So, but no, just one mention as well. Big
Yeah.
Tommy Goss. He is the most awkward, gangly, Peter Crouch-esque footballer. But boy, does he create mayhem and score goals.
Well, he's top scorer, isn't he, in Scottish League 2 this season, I think. And
Yeah.
I only watched a little bit of it. I didn't watch all of it. But what I noticed when he wins headers, he puts them in good places as well. It's not just a case of he just gets on the end of it.
He reminds me of Derek Holmes.
You know what? It's a really good comparison.
With more goals. More goals, though.
A little bit more mobile than Homer ever was.
But I managed to go to the playoff against Edinburgh last year. And, I was impressed with him, and obviously Moxon at the time. And I couldn't make the two home games this time because of work, etc. But no, Annan, they look as though they've got the bit between the teeth, and they've got to be strong favourites now.
Yeah, so Max is now sitting on 37 appearances in his spell with Annan and 7 goals.
Also, just thinking slightly ahead, if Annan were to go up, no reason why a couple of the younger players couldn't go there for the first half of next season.
Also, like Kai Nugent might do quite well, going
I was just going to say, Kai Nugent to someone,
And that's the bonus as well of Workington going up there. They're at a slightly higher level now, so you've got a better option to send players there. So it's all good. It's one of those things you want the teams nearby you to do well because you want better options to send players around to, don't you? So you'd have to send them too far away. So yeah, brilliant stuff from Max, and obviously wish them all the best for Friday night, and hopefully they can secure promotion. And all they have to do is basically a 1-0 defeat or anything better than that would be perfect, wouldn't it? Basically, as long as they don't lose by more than 1 goal, they're going up. So brilliant stuff. Right, well, let's get on to it then. Match review time.
No, we were just going to mention.
Oh yes, sorry.
Game.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, just we give this a shout. We gave this a shout last week. Sunday at Brunton Park in Penrith, Carlisle Legends against Penrith Legends. 2:00 kickoff, 5 admission, concessions £3, children free. Load of ex-Blues and ex-Penrith folk. Some of them putting on boots for the first time in a long time. Should be a good afternoon.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Right, well, let's get into it then. Bradford City 1, Carl United 0. Strange coming away from sort of a first leg of a playoff semi-final of a defeat. I didn't feel downhearted after that, did you?
No. When we went 1 down, we didn't start the game well.
No.
Went 1 down, and I was like, these next 10 minutes are big,
Yeah.
And it really settled us more than anything.
Yeah, it did, to be fair.
And, obviously after the second half, we're by far the better team, but no, it's 1 down, 90 minutes to go. I think something a lot of fans are forgetting as well. We only need to score 1 goal in 90 minutes to keep in the tie.
Yeah.
Because there is the chance of extra time and penalties, obviously.
Exactly. So that's a perfect way of looking at it. I got to say, I thought it was a really good, decent context, actually, between two, I mean, we saw the stats beforehand and well matched the two teams are, but I mean, you look at the match stats for it, Dan, it's pretty much equal.
I think all 4 playoff teams are very well matched, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most balanced you've seen in a while. Sometimes you get teams sneaking in who maybe aren't quite as good, or a team that's been sort of dropped off from the top 3 and is really in a free fall. But all of these teams have been pretty much up there all season, haven't they, really? So it's quite well balanced in that sense. But like I said, you look at the stats, possession-wise, it's one of the first times this season that possession's been straight down the middle, 50-50. Shots, including shots on target. So Bradford had 10 shots with 2 on target. We had 9 shots with 1 on target, which is actually inaccurate, to be fair, because that includes McCallum's volley that was straight at the keeper as the shot on target, I'm guessing. But actually, Whelan had 2 headers that were on target that don't seem to have been counted in this. So I think it's actually more shots on target for us technically, but either way, it's very well balanced, isn't it, in terms of that sort of thing? So it's very much all to play for the second leg, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We've got absolutely nothing to be afraid of. I've got a couple of mates who are Bradford fans, and they were amazed that they got away with a 1-0 win. Mm-hmm. They were like, you deserved something. Hughes is far too negative in his tactics. We basically invited you on, and you did everything but score.
Well, I mean, they were taking off attackers for defenders in the last few minutes, weren't they, to sort of secure things up a bit? So it tells you, they were a little bit worried in that last 10 minutes or so. So when team selection was announced, Dan, we'd heard whispers about this earlier in the week, hadn't we, that this was going to be the lineup anyway. But some people were quite surprised, weren't they, to see he's moved away from the square peg-ish. I know these players can sort of fill these roles, but sort of square peg-ish players in the right wing-back role. And he went for an actual right wing-back in Joel Senior in there, didn't he? For the his first starts in Stockport last month, and then it's only his second start since the defeat at Gillingham in March.
I think when we talk about the square pegs, square holes, etc., the only two that were slightly was probably Corey Whelan playing to the left of the free, which isn't natural, and Patrick in a two. We know he's more of a three man.
But previously we've been playing Barkley at right wing back, and that is very much a sort of squarish peg in a round hole, isn't it? He can do a job there, but it's not as effective as having someone whose job actually is that, isn't it? So Senior came in for a start, and Joe Garner obviously came in for Christian Dennis as well in attack. What did you think when? I mean, obviously you'd heard whispers about, so you had an idea this was coming. But what were your thoughts when you saw that team?
I wasn't sure about the top end because I like I said last week, I like Garner from the bench.
Yeah,
I think when we saw it on Sunday, he got booked, and it negates him a little bit because he's half a tackle away from another card once he's booked. I
mean, we will be talking about the referee later, but I mean, that booking was a ridiculous decision, though.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't even like their players were demanding a booking or anything. I think he tried to say it was for persistence, but he hadn't warned him previously at all. I hadn't seen anything saying one more and you get booked or anything.
Yeah.
It just seemed an absolute baffling decision, really, for me, that one. But yeah, I mean, I did actually say, I think, from what I remember, when we did the preview, I thought he might start with Garner in this one and play Dennis in the second one. I just felt the physical battle at Bradford would suit Garner a bit better than Dennis from the start. That was just my thoughts going into it. So I wasn't at all surprised. I'm maybe a little bit surprised that Patrick started. And that was the only one maybe I thought it might change it up. But then, again, we'll talk about him later, but we'll see about that. Onto the game itself. I mean, the goal, it's a bit of a soft one to concede, isn't it? I've watched it back now, and it's a long ball forward from the goal kick. Initially flicked on, then flicked back on, and Cook gets onto the flick on. Decent nod down to be fair from him into a good area. Jack Armer's got to deal with that ball, surely, hasn't he? Banks just nips in before him, pokes it forward to Walker, who sets himself quite well, and then I know it goes through Hurley's legs, but it's such close range and such power. He's not really going to be able to do much about that, is he?
No. Took the finish well. Banks is a player I do like. He was one of mine in my Scottish notebook, my famous Scottish notebook before he went to Palace.
With him, it's a weird one because they describe him being very Iron Robin-esque. He plays on the right, but he's very much left-footed and cuts in. He barely ever cut in onto his left. Even though he's left-footed and very left-footed, he was constantly trying to get to the byline round Senior, round Armour, which really baffled me. I thought, surely you want to be cutting in onto your stronger left foot, but either way.
Unless he was just following the instruction.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, do you think Armour can do a bit better on this goal?
Maybe a little bit, but maybe being a bit harsh as well. Just, yes and no.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? In terms of first half chances, I mean, like you said, I think they were probably edged it in the first half, I would say. I wouldn't say they were massively on top, to be fair. And actually, when I watched back the extended highlights on the iFollow, we had quite a few chances in the first half as well. You kind of get lost in the fact that, they scored and then nearly scored a second just before the break with, I think it was Banks was free, wasn't it? And actually, Hurley makes a very good save. His positioning looked a bit dodgy, but he got it saved.
The annoying thing about the goal was we'd hit the bar 30 seconds before, literally.
Actually, to be fair, that one as well. That's one of the best chances we had that first half. It was sort of a ball came loose in the box, and Garner controls it and then hits a lovely sort of striking across the ball. Was it half volley? It would be half volley, wouldn't it? That crashed off the bar. Now, the referee gave a handball there because all the Bradford players appealed for it. I've watched back the footage of that. I'm not convinced it touches his hand. I think it sort of goes up to his fire in his chest. He didn't complain too much about it, but then maybe I don't think he realised that the free kick had been given. Maybe, I don't know, but it didn't look like a handball to me. It looks a bit of a soft decision. It was from that kick, as you say, that was when it was punted forward for the goal, which was frustrating. But we had other chances in that first half, didn't we? You look at it, a couple of free kicks into the box. Barkley got on the end of one, and I think that took a sort of, the sting was taken out of it by hitting the defender. Whelan had a couple of really good chances as well from set pieces. Set pieces were a big threat in this game, weren't they?
Yeah. I had a couple of pals with me who were neutral, and they commented on, they were really impressed with our Armour and Moxon, the balls they were putting in. They were like, these are good balls. The way it's going, you will get something from them. Well, when we talk about chances, we should have really, but
I mean, I'm looking, actually, we only had 3 corners, and actually, think about it, we could have scored from all 3 of them. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking with all 3 corners that we had, we could have scored from them. So I mean, that goes to show we've got a chance to get a threat against them in the second leg, especially big crowd behind us, and there needs to be a little bit more belief when attacking those corners, though, doesn't it? And that's one thing I'd say with Whelan, actually, with his attacking on set pieces. He just didn't. It was like he didn't quite believe he was going to get a goal from it. If he goes in there with a bit more belief into the header, possibly might help. I don't know. So there was, like I said, they nearly doubled the lead before half-time. Really good save from Holy, this, wasn't it? In terms of getting down to save it. It looked like his positioning wasn't quite right at first, but actually he sort of shot on the angle and backed himself to make the save if it was played the other side, didn't he? So did really well there. Into the second half, and I watched the extended highlights, and I'm sure Bradford had a couple of half chances, but there wasn't a single chance for them shown on the extended highlights in the second half. And it's not like we constantly peppered and dominated them, but we sort of just kept them at arm's reach, didn't we, in that second half?
Yeah, I thought we played excellently second half, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We created the chances, we kept them to very little, and the fact that, like we've already mentioned, they were bringing on defender after defender shows just how much we were on top,
Yeah. I mean, I just realised I said arm's reach, I meant arm's length. It's a bit weird on that one. So yeah, another Moxon corner, I think, that found Whelan, and his header was once again, it was blocked by Critchlow, actually, which took the pace off the ball, made it a bit easier. And then there was that mess up by Critchlow on the touchline, wasn't there? Where the ball did go out, to be fair. Although Critchlow went to go and grab it, I don't think he did touch it with his hand, but he wasn't far off, stopping the ball with his hand. But actually, all the Bradford fans complained, saying, the ball went out and the ref played on. It's like, well, if they hadn't played on, it would have been a corner anyway. So I don't know what you're complaining about, really.
Yeah.
Edmondson gets to the byline, plays it across goal, and then Armour. This is the thing that infuriated me a bit on Sunday night. Is the decision making a couple of times was poor, wasn't it? That's a situation where you quickly take a touch and play it back to Dennis or someone like that. Why he's going for goal there from such a tight angle on the run, I don't know. That's a little bit of like, you've got to be a bit smarter there, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely. And yeah, I'm just sort of looking through the bits here. Let's talk about the best chance we had of the lot. Nice little bit of play by Dennis down the left, picks up Armour, whips in a wonderful cross, absolutely wonderful cross. Oh, Edmondson, he's got to bury that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I've watched it but a couple of times trying to work out what he got wrong. I just don't think he ever got over the ball, did he? I just think his contact with it wasn't good. And it was at a good height.
When he picked himself up, you could tell he knew. He was like, shit.
I think he
should have been it.
It was a nice height. He never really got over it. That was the problem. And if he connects with it properly, it's a goal. Keeper's not saving it. It'll be like a bullet into the back of the net, wouldn't it? There was that, obviously the volley from McCallum. It was straight at the keeper. If he'd hit it either side of him, he may well have scored, but that would have been a great goal. And obviously the chance for Dennis late on, which Charter set up with a nice little free ball, and he rounded the keeper, but I don't think there was much he could have done there, really. I think he had to have a go for goal, and the angle was just a bit too tight, and then that was it pretty much. The 90 minutes done, and I think the reaction from the fans was good and positive at the end, wasn't it, as well? There was no downheartedness about it. There was a bit of booing for the referee because he was bad, and we'll talk about that. But overall, what was your feeling at the final whistle, Dan?
Disappointed not to get something, but certainly not downhearted, because the way we finished the game, this tie's winnable still.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you on that one. which was my first talking point. We haven't got any 6-second reviews this week, sorry, just before we carry on. It's all still to play for, isn't it? Basically, you'd obviously prefer to go in that second leg with a win or even a draw, but, a 1-0 defeat in front of a big crowd, a raucous atmosphere, and having conceded fairly early on, to not then look like we're going to concede again other than one other chance, I think it really sets up for what could be a firecracker of a second leg, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's it's going to be a belter, big crowd. I know the young lads are getting encouraging a lot of blue and white and balloons and whatnot. So it's going to be bouncing.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting indeed. Let's talk about some of the other talking points then, Dan. First up, Joel Senior's return to the starting 11. As we mentioned before, that was only his second start since the defeat at Gillingham back in the end of March. So, in 2 months to only have 2 starts and actually come in and play as well as he did, I think he deserves a bit of credit, because he's clearly fallen a bit out of favour with Simmo. I think Simmo wanted a bit more solidity in there, didn't he, really? And something, back to basics almost, isn't it, with Ben Barkley filling in that role. But I don't think he did himself any harm with this, did he? He got up and down the pitch a bit. Early on, he was doing a little bit of ball chasing, I know that, and he ended up on the left-hand side a couple of times. And if you watch the Sky coverage of the game, there's a point where Simmo, you can see to him saying, Joel, stay out wide, telling him to stop coming inside and chasing the ball, chasing his man. You just stay wide and cover your position and get forward. And he then started doing that. There was one infuriating thing about that, though, wasn't there? That no one was picking him out for ages.
Yeah.
And it started to get really annoying. You could see the fans getting really frustrated. It's like, get it to Joel, because he was hugging the touchline and no one was near him. And then when they finally got it to him, there was too many players near him and he didn't really have the belief anymore, did he, to take on his man, really, because they took so long to get the ball to him. So, bit frustrating. I mean, the best example of that was early on where we broke away down the right, and McCalmont should have played him in, shouldn't he? He was in acres of space, and then he sort of got into the box and kept going, McCalmont, and just didn't seem to know what to do, sort of backed in and fell over, and it was never a penalty. I know a lot of our fans are trying to claim it was never in a million years. If that's given as a penalty against us, you'd be fuming, wouldn't you? It would have been incredibly soft.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you play Senior in there, he can get a ball across then for Patrick or Garner in the middle, so a bit frustrating that. But yeah, Simmo got a tough decision to make with this one for the return leg.
Yeah, stick or twist, isn't it? I mean, you've got the right wing back position. Senior didn't do a lot wrong.
No.
But do you maybe think of starting Gibson because you want him to go for it a bit more? Yeah. Or is that the change later in the game, but a bit earlier than Sunday? Yeah. It was quite late on Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas you could imagine it maybe more around the hour mark if we're still needing something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a potential option, isn't it, really? So it's going to be very interesting to see what he does in terms of that. We mentioned him earlier, but I've got to talk about Corey Whelan and his steady Eddie performance once again. There was a bit of an early scare with him, wasn't it, when he picked up a silly booking, really, for diving in when he didn't really need to. Really frustrating that, because you think, oh, God, you're already playing in a position where you're slightly awkward. The last thing you'd want is to be on a booking. But actually, I thought he marshalled himself really, really well after that. He didn't dive in, no silly tackles, dealt with the ball when he had to, and he was a big set.
I think it was noticeable in the second half as well. I mean, obviously, Armour's so used to Mellish this season. The first half, we looked a bit disjointed down the left up until around the booking, but second half, it was like a different team. Especially down the left. The link-up play appeared, especially when Dennis came on, because Dennis was dropping deep on the left-hand side, and it was Dennis's touch that set Armour off for the cross for Edmonton's chance. Those people who say Dennis offers nothing, well, he created that chance.
No, I thought he was quite lively, Dennis, to be fair. I thought he looked good when he came on, but maybe talk about that in a sec. But yeah, in terms of Corey Whelan, would you have any fears about him playing that position again for the return leg? I don't think I do anymore.
No.
I think he's shown he can do it. And like set pieces, he is a big threat. It's weird because he's not the tallest. He's 6'1", 6'2". No, he'd be 6'2", wouldn't he, I think?
Yeah.
But he gets himself into good positions. And like I said, I just want a bit more belief there.
Yeah.
That's what you want. Charter's return. What about that then? Obviously, he had a little brief...
Absolutely brilliant.
He had a brief cameo against Sutton. He did okay. He offered a bit. He effectively set up the goal, didn't he? He won the flick on for the own goal. In this one, I think he got, what is it? When did he came on, the 69th minute? I'm just double checking that now. Yes, 69 minutes. He got 21 minutes in this one. I thought for a player that was only second appearance since December. I agree with you. I think he was fantastic. Really, really good. His first touch is really, really good, isn't it? That's something that's massively improved on him over the last year or so. He brings it down well, and there's no panic there. There's no I'm just going to hoof this forward. He's always like, right, can I pick up Moxon? Can I find someone here? And it made a big impact, didn't it, him coming on?
I thought it was absolutely excellent, and it was one of those where if looking ahead to summer, say the big clubs do come in for Moxon and he moves on, you'd have no worries about Taylor Charters fitting in, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. He really looks like he's it's the way he's grown in stature over the last couple of years is really impressive. And he came in initially and he looked good. Remember that game against Walsall when he made his full debut?
Yeah.
Full league debut, and he was brilliant. And then he sort of disappeared again, didn't he? Beach just didn't seem to trust him anymore, which was strange.
Here's a one for you then. How many games do you think Taylor Charters has played for Carlisle? I've just counted this up.
Right. I think it's a lot more than you actually realise, isn't it? I think he's round about... He'd be closing on the 50 mark now, I'd guess.
55.
55?
Yeah.
There's part of me thinking he must have
think that, would you?
There's a lot of little sub appearances, isn't it?
You would probably think 20, maybe 30 at a push, but it's 55.
Yeah, wow. Well, it goes to show, isn't it, really? You can build
and that was with half a season away at Gateshead.
Yeah.
And he's been injured for chunks of this season, so...
Exactly, And when he got into the team in, October, he was barely out of it after that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of appearances on the bench after that, but most of those games he played. So, Simmo clearly, look, he's out of contract in summer. I have no doubt he's getting a new contract. He's shown that he's more than good enough, and he's a young lad, and that's the kind of player we're bringing through, isn't it? Technically very gifted as well, good set pieces as well, which we didn't get a chance to see at the weekend. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, it certainly gives Simmo something to think about, and we'll probably be discussing about that in the preview section, won't we? I think it's fair to say. Well, I've put it off long enough. Let's talk about another diabolical referee performance. I mean, not just him, actually, his assistants as well. What on earth was going on in this game?
I don't know. Even during the match, one of my Bradford mates messaged me going, "This referee has given everything to City."
It was utterly bizarre. I mean, there were some of them you just couldn't grasp. I mean, like I said, the linesmen weren't much good either. The assistants weren't much good either, really. But there was 2 or 3 decisions. You're like, what are you thinking? There was one decision, I think, where Bradford maybe had a gripe, which was one where it looked like Guy booted the ball out for a corner. But, I mean, that was tight there. That could easily have clipped off Cook's foot. It's very hard to tell from the footage I've seen. But some of the other ones, like I said, we've already mentioned the handball against Ghana. We've got to mention the goal kick that was given when it should have been a corner, where Whelan heads the ball and it's going into the opposite corner. In fact, it probably would have got in because it was glancing and it was heading that way. It hits one Bradford defender, then hits another and goes wide of the opposite post. And straight away the ref's like, goal kick. And you can see Sam Stubbs gives a thumb up to the referee, but you can see the look on his face thinking, bloody hell, we've got away with one there. That was a blatant corner. I mean, that was just how he's got to that decision there. Surely the assessors are looking back at it and saying to him there, how have you got to that decision there? That's not even like it. That's not, if it's slightly glanced at someone, I get it. You might not see it, but that was obvious.
Well, you would think it was.
Yeah. It's meant to be, isn't it? And there was 2 or 3, I mean, in the second half, there was 2 or 3 throw-ins given to them on the near touchline to us that were never in a million years. And there's one actually, he missed a blatant handball where the lad pretty much punched it out of the air, didn't he? And he was looking right at it. Nothing given. He was not a very good ref, I think it's fair to say. I don't think there was any penalty shouts or anything like that for us particularly, but yeah, not particularly great for a playoff semi-final. Real shame that, but hopefully the referee for the home leg will be a little bit better. Simmo was quite careful with his comments after the game, wasn't he, to sort of suggest that, hope we get a homer for the next game. And he didn't suggest he was biased, but he suggested that, they got all the close calls, basically. So, interesting. Let's talk about atmosphere and attendance, Stan. 20,575 was the attendance, including over 2,400 Blues. Now, that is a record for a for an individual League Two playoff semi-final, beating the previous record, which was 19,467, set by Huddersfield v Lincoln in 2004, which is brilliant. I mean, even allowing for Bradford being a very well supported big club, amazing to get that sort of crowd for a League Two playoff semi, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, fans of other football in other countries must be amazed when they see stuff like that, because you wouldn't get that in the German fourth tier. I know it's regionalised there, so it's a little bit different, but you just wouldn't. So that's amazing. But actually, as long as the attendance is over 12,058 for the return leg, that would set
which is going to be.
Which is going to be, we know that.
Yeah.
That would set a new combined playoff attendance total over 2 legs. Now, the previous record for that, 32,633, which was set by Plymouth and Portsmouth in 2016. 2 really big clubs there, obviously, as well.
Yeah, 2 big clubs, isn't it? Yeah.
So, you've got to say, as well, full credit to both sets of fans for actually creating a really good atmosphere in this one, because, it's a tense game. It could easily, they could have dropped off, couldn't they? They could have sort of started panicking a little bit and, going a bit quiet. But actually, I thought it was amazing, Dan. I thought genuinely, the noise that both sets of fans made throughout the whole 90 minutes was great.
Yeah, one of my 2 mates who was with me, Magic, he commented that 7 p.m. Sunday football's the future, because he said it was brilliant. He'd come over from Manchester and he was saying, it's amazing. It's the place is packed. Both fans, 2 good teams. Because he'd actually been Salford Stockport on the Saturday.
Yeah,
and he said the difference. He said ours was by far a better spectacle, both on and off. So
the Salford game, obviously the crowd was 3,900 in the end or something like that, which is 1,200 short of the capacity. I know this was under capacity, but still it was a huge crowd. They've got to remember that. Whereas that one, they restricted the number of Stockport which they're entitled to. The rules say they can do that, but it felt like a bit of it was a very tit for tat thing, wasn't it? Because they got a smaller capacity.
There was a fair few Stockport in the home end, apparently.
No, it doesn't really surprise you, to say. No. Imagine that.
But when you look at the attendance at County will be 9,000, give or take.
Yeah.
You're talking 3 times as many our 2 games as the other 2 games.
Yeah. And actually, when you look at it...
Which does make a mockery of all... A lot of people won't know. The funds from all 4 games are just put into one pot.
Yeah.
The TV money's added in as well. The EFL take their slices and then it gets split between the 4.
Yeah.
And then that happens again for the final. The 2 teams split it, so...
Yeah.
You've got the thing where Salford could end up going up, having 3,000 home fans, 3,000 at Wembley and making a pretty penny,
Yeah.
Which,
frustrating that would be, wouldn't it? But there you go. But yeah, so brilliant stuff from both sets of fans. I got to say, it's an away day as well. I had a really good day out. I drove over, didn't drink, but I thought it was, it was boisterous, but it wasn't, over the top, was it? I didn't see any bother. I thought it was policed and stewarded pretty well as well. There was one idiot got on the pitch.
Got to give a shout out to the place we parked up at the end of. I keep forgetting the name of that street that the away ends on.
Midland Road, I think it is.
Midland Road. We were right up the top end by the wonderfully named Hamstrasse.
Oh yes, I saw that when I was walking up. I was like, that must be one of the only streets in England that's got a German name on it. It's incredible.
Hamstrasse, brilliant.
Yeah.
We parked in this little car park. It did tyre changing. It did car washing. It had a shisha bar. You could get a kebab. You could get a smoothie, and they did car parking.
Brilliant.
It was amazing.
Incredible. But yeah, no, I thought it was a good day out. Like I said, there was no real trouble between the 2 sets of fans. There was one idiot got on the pitch when Bradford scored. I mean, why would you do that? I mean, on your own as well, because you for a fact, if they get to Wembley now, he's not going to be able to go. You'll have a banning order sorted. You probably have a banning order sorted by now already. You got to wonder about some people what they're thinking, don't you? But there you go. So yeah, I mean, anything else? Yeah, I suppose the only other thing to talk about, Dan, is what we were saying there about Garner and did it work or not? Him starting and him and Patrick up front. I'm a little bit on the fence about it. I think Patrick looked good in spells when he drifted out wide again, as he did against Sutton, and it's kind of like, you almost want Simmo to say to him, just stick yourself to the middle, to the wing. Drift out to either wing, doesn't matter which one, just drift out to the wings, let Garner do the work in the middle and play around that, and Alfie can get up and support him maybe. Garner, again, I thought he did some good stuff, but I felt he got a little bit too much involved in the off-the-ball stuff. There was the incident where you can't really tell from the camera angle whether it is an elbow or anything in his face from Critchley. It looks more like maybe a shoulder to the face and just sort of barged him out of the way a little bit, and Garner went down theatrically. But obviously, Gordon got done for something not much worse in my opinion, but there you go. Garner, I think in spells it worked. Sometimes when he brings the ball down, he's then a little bit slow to react to get to the ball after that. Dennis looked lively when he came out, Edmondson looked lively when he came out. It's a tough conundrum, isn't it, for Simmo?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk soon in the preview. I'll wait till the preview for my take on it.
Okay, you're going to leave it till then? Fair enough.
Yeah.
The preview will be coming in a sec, actually, because I think that's pretty much it for the first half, isn't it? I don't think there's anything else we want to cover, really. Just saying, it's all still to play for, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Mom.
Let's get on to it then. So we'll take a short break and then we'll be back with the preview section.
Hi, I'm Thomas Holy, and you are listening to Brunton Bugle.
There we are, big Thomas there, ahead of the big second leg against Bradford City.
I've got a hastily put together question for you.
Right. So this
is because it's a really easy one, because Lee told me approximately 30 seconds before we started recording. We have played 4 home games in playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Aldershot, Wickham, Exeter, and I've forgotten the other one. Leeds. What is our average home attendance in those 4 games?
Oh. So I've got to try and get it roundabout right-ish. Now, I have a feeling, if I can work these sort of out of the top of my head, I think it was 10,000 against Wickham. I think against Aldershot it was 9. I might be wrong on that one, but I think it was 9 for Aldershot. Against Leeds, it was 12,000, I'm sure. And I'm sure it was about 9 against Exeter as well. So I reckon average attendance will be, I'm going to have a weird guess at 10,231.
Way off. Leeds, we had 12,873.
Yeah.
Wickham, we had 10,862.
Yeah.
Aldershot, we had 10,803.
Okay, we were 10,
Exeter, we had 9,708. And that gives an average of 11,061.5. So we'll say 11,062, because you always round up if you get 0.5 or higher.
Yeah. Oh, fair dues. No, for some reason, I was sure the game against Aldershot was less than 10. I don't know why. It's just stuck in my head, but there you go. Oh, no, fair dues. So there you go. So nice little one for the maths nerds there for the question, isn't it? Which we know there's a few that do follow us, but there you go. Right, let's get looking ahead to the game, Dan. Referee for this one, Simon Mather from Greater Manchester. It's his second season as an EFL referee. It's quite inexperienced to be doing a playoff semi-final, isn't it, really? It must be one that's well thought of.
Hard.
Oh, my word, doesn't he? 33 games so far this season, handing out 138 yellows and 6 red cards. Last season, he handed out 137 yellow and 10 red cards in 32 games. So, thinking how feisty the first leg was in places, it's one of those ones where you do wonder, is it worth us starting Garner for this one if he's quite card happy? Could be a bit of bother there. Head-to-head wise, we only play one game more, but 60th meeting between the two sides. United have won 21. 15 have been a draw, and the Bantams have won 23.
Well, speaking of the Bantams, I do like how their fan base has adopted the name the Chickens.
Yeah, Chickens.
It just tickles me.
Making a mockery of their own thing. It's quite funny, to be fair. Fair play to them. I mean, we'll sort of briefly talk about Bradford again, because we did cover most of it in the last preview episode. But I mean, in terms of what you thought about them in the first leg and what threats you can see, Dan, I mean, dare I say, Andy Cook, 7 games now, still hasn't scored against us.
I mentioned this to the other mate, Stu, about how Cook has never scored against us, and he was like, that's mad considering how many goals he's scored,
Yeah.
touch wood, it didn't look like scoring on Sunday, really.
I think he had one long-range shot and then one where he where he should have got a shot off earlier and he drifted out wide and ended up dinking it in for a cross, which we cleared.
Yeah.
Bar that, I agree with you. I don't think he really had a threat. I thought Walker and Banks looked really big threats, actually, when they got into good positions.
I like Banks as a player. I think Banks is the sort of player we should keep an eye on for future, because I can't see him making it at Clydebank. I don't think at Crystal Palace. I don't think he's kicked on enough.
No, I don't think he's quite going to be good enough level. I don't know if he's out of contract in the summer, but I imagine. I wouldn't be surprised if Bradford went back in for him. To be fair, if he just he is out. To be fair, I imagine he'd want to go back.
The one who impressed me on Sunday was Smallwood.
Yeah,
but that's to be expected. He's too good for League Two.
That's it. They didn't dominate the midfield second half. We were really on top, and I thought they took a bit too long to take Clayton off. Actually, I thought he wasn't really in the game second half, and
Clayton, I don't like to say, but he looks as though he's coming towards his later days.
His legs aren't quite. He always used to be quite a mobile player, could get around, and they're not quite there. Gilead's a lot more mobile, but I'm not convinced about him as a central midfielder. I don't think I'm not sure he's a bit tougher than he was when he was with us, because he's finding out challenges all the time when he played for us. But now, I don't think he's actually too bad with that. But I still don't think he's strong enough to be playing in a midfield three. I thought he looked lively actually when he got into wide positions, but down the middle wasn't. So in the centre, I wasn't really thrown in it. At the back, Stubbs looks a good player, doesn't he? I mean, there's no doubt he's not the milkman, is he? He's definitely his dad's son, because he's the absolute spit of him. Alan Stubbs, for those who haven't worked out, by the way, the former Everton player. He looks quite good.
I think with their defence, I thought the two in the middle, Stubbs and
Critchlow,
Noble, or whatever he's called.
Yeah,
I thought the two centre backs look quite good together, quite solid.
Yeah, they do look good.
I thought the full backs, I wasn't impressed by them.
I've never been 100% certain on that Halliday. He's obviously used to be at Cambridge, and was he at Port Vale possibly in the past, I think? I can't remember. Not convinced by him.
He was at Doncaster, I know he was at Doncaster.
Rydalsh. Was he the one who was at Tranmere, I think?
He was at Tranmere for years, yeah.
I don't rate him at all, to be honest. I think if we can get someone at him... that's why I'd be tempted to play Gibson.
They're not terrible, they're just average League Two fullbacks.
In comparison, Armour's a far better fullback than either of them, to be fair, in my opinion. Yeah. Senior, it's probably about the same standard as the pair of them, to be fair, at the moment. I think Back or LS will be better than either of them, though, to be fair. And yeah, they're a good side, but I wasn't blown away. I was expecting them to come really out at us and have a real go early on with a big crowd behind them.
Like I said earlier, all four teams in the playoffs are very much of a muchness. We've all sort of beat each other or done something against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very, very well balanced in there. How do we approach this game then, Dan? It's a tough one, because do you go all out? I don't think
we have to go. We don't need to go all guns blazing.
Yeah,
because we're only a goal behind. We only need one goal in 90 minutes.
Yeah,
yes, that would mean extra time, but it would mean the tie would be level again, and you're at home.
And that's one of the things that stood out for me in the game at Bradford, is that we finished very strongly. All our subs that came on made a good impact. They all got involved in the game. They all pushed forward. Bradford subs, maybe it's just the nature of the subs they made, are a little bit less positive in the sense of, they brought on a centre-back for a striker and stuff like that. I'm just double-checking what subs they made again, actually, now while I'm saying this. Who did they bring on? They brought on Platt, obviously, for Banks. That was with a few minutes to go, but still. Derbyshire came on for Clayton, but again, he didn't really do much.
Good, yeah.
I know, and Ozadabi, I mean, I thought the referee took an instant dislike to him, and we actually started getting a few free kicks as a result of some of the stuff he was doing. So
Matt Derbyshire's 37 now.
I know. I can imagine this is.
He's had some career. He's been everywhere, hasn't he?
Yes, he really has. But yeah, it kind of it felt to me like they were, considering they hadn't gone full guns blazing at us and really attacked us. They looked a bit tired, and they looked a bit like we were winning all the second balls. We looked a lot fresher. That kind of encourages me for, if the game's tight, we can still nick something from it, whatever the situation is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, your opinion is we bide our time on this. I tend to agree. What I'd like to see though, if the crowd is really loud and boisterous early on, I want us to feed off that and really go at them.
Yeah.
I don't want us to sit back because the last thing we want is the atmosphere to drop. We want the atmosphere to be kept up for as long as possible in this game, don't we? So feed off that, but don't go too over the top. That's the key thing, isn't it? I think. Tactics, you've got to stick with 3-5-2, surely now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
there's no point in changing it. So let's go through position by position.
I think the defence picks itself. Keep it the same.
So you'd keep it exactly the same.
The only question would maybe be Gibson coming in at right wing back for senior, but I think that's a substitution for later in the game.
Yeah,
but not as late as it was on Sunday.
No, I think I agree with that because obviously. The one thing with having Gibson in there instead of senior is it makes it a lot easier for you to go click your fingers and go, right, we're going into 4-3-3. Especially if Patrick starts, so then basically Patrick goes wide, Gibson goes wide with whoever's down the middle. Your midfield stays as it is, and then Barkley just shifts over to right back. And you've got a back four, haven't you, straight away?
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that until obviously Gibson's on the pitch, really, otherwise. So, yeah, it's... So your opinion, you'd stick with the back five that we had?
The only changes for me are up for field in the front positions.
Okay. I tend to agree with you on that. I think I'd probably stick with senior from the start on this one initially. And I agree, I'd sub in Gibson a bit sooner. So midfield, I think this is where there's a really big question. Charters did really, really well against Bradford. I think most people agree with that. I think he made a bit of a difference. And the thing I noticed with him is, because he's left-footed, right? He was spreading the ball out wide a lot better for Armour, wasn't he? He was putting the ball ahead of Armour. Sometimes when the right-footed players, they were putting a bit of curve on it and they were putting it almost straight at Armour or behind him, which means he then has to drag it onto his left foot. Charles was much more aware of that and was playing it forward, and that helped us get on the front foot a lot quicker. So I suppose the big question here is, I mean, McCallum was busy as well. Yeah, I think he had an okay game, but again, I just don't think he's quite creative enough in that final third. Is Charters fit enough to start the game? Would you start him in this?
If you're going to start Charters, then it's almost likely it's going to be for McCallum because Guy and Moxon are starting.
Yeah. I mean, that said, he came on for Guy, didn't he? It's different because they were sitting back a lot more at that point. You didn't have to be sitting as deep and whatnot. And if you do that, Moxon is going to have to sit very deep in the game, isn't he? He's going to have to be the number 4, basically. So what's your thinking on this one?
I would probably say that the only changes I would make would be I would start Edmondson and Dennis up front.
Okay, so basically you'd stick with the midfield 3 as it is.
Yeah,
and you go with Edmondson and Dennis up front.
The only thing that potential is there's a chance of extra time and penalties, and I don't think Dennis would do 120 minutes.
This is exactly what I'm thinking. This is why I am edging towards the idea of keeping Dennis on the bench. Because I feel if you bring him on with half an hour to go, you can get a full hour out of him and get him into the penalties as well.
Patrick absolutely infuriated me on Sunday.
Just because he gets into good area. What he infuriates us for the simple reason is we know he's good. And we know he's capable of doing like things that most League 2 players can't, the way you can beat him. And there was that point when he beat the man. And it's like, right, just smash the ball across goal in the first half. Just smash it across. And he didn't. And he tried to beat the man again to get to the touchline and ended up actually just giving away a throw-in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, just put the ball in. He just needs a bit more belief.
We've also got the wild card of J.K. Gordon's available.
Well, yeah, again, he's had a whole month out, hasn't he, basically? Effectively, because we've been playing Saturdays.
I wouldn't be adverse to Gordon starting,
You know what? I've thought about this and what I'd do, right? In midfield, I think I'm like, I'd probably would stick with the 3 it was, but I'm very 50-50 over McCallum and Charters. I do wonder if bringing Charters on later on probably works quite well as it did against Bradford, so maybe stick with that. But in attack, I think I'd go Gordon and Edmondson. Both of them quite good in the air. They're both quite good, holding it up, and both got ability to run with the ball. Gordon's very different to Patrick in that sense, in that he's not quite as much of a winger drifting that wide. He actually can do a bit of the hold-up play as well and dragging the ball down and that kind of thing. Edmondson will run all day and he'll chase everything. I think I'd be inclined to go with that. And then you'd have Patrick Garner and Dennis to come off the bench. It's not a bad option to have, is it, really?
No, it's like we always say, who'd be a manager?
So you're going with the same team up until the front two, and then you're going with Edmo and Dennis.
I want to say Edmondson and Dennis. Yeah, I'd go Edmondson and Dennis because I want to finish it in 90.
Okay, I'm with you, except I'd swap maybe Dennis for Gordon. That's the change I'd make, I think. Just to give some... I feel like him having a whole month off is not a bad thing. I don't think he's the kind of player who's going to struggle for match fitness suddenly. I think he can... I mean, look, when he came into the team, when he'd barely been playing for under 21s, when he first came in, he looked sharp as hell, didn't he? He had no problems at all. So I think a month out actually would help him. Fresh legs, come in, hit the ground running. And he'll have a point to prove as well, won't you? With what happened, he'll be annoyed that he's been out for those few games when he could have made an impact. So yeah, that's what I'd do personally. But yeah, it's going to be exciting, isn't it? It's it's a really hard one to call, I think, and I'm sure Brad fans walk away from that game on Sunday and mixed feelings of like pleased to come away with the win, but thinking if we've got that second before half time, it's not killed off the tie, but it puts us in a really strong position. Yeah. But then now in the second leg, we're not going to be sitting back. We're going to be wanting to win it. So, it's exciting. Anything else to talk about from this one, Dan, before we get on to predictions?
No, just get behind the lads,
Absolutely.
90 minutes from potentially extending the season another 8 days on a trip to the big smoke.
That's what we want. All right, prediction time then, Dan. What are you going for this one? Obviously, we didn't gain any points because none of us predicted a 1-0 defeat against Bradford.
Carlisle United 3, Bradford City 1.
Oh, okay. Go on.
That's my prediction.
Goal scorers.
Christian Dennis. If J.K. Gordon plays, he'll score.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go for Paul Huntington.
Okay.
I think we'll make use of one of these corners this week.
Right. I'm also going to go for 3-1. I nearly went for 3-2 and thought extra time would be coming in, but no. We're only doing 90 minutes on this, by the way. I haven't actually listened to Mike yet, so if he's tried to put in extra time and stuff, he can sod off. I'm going 3-1. Goal scorers. I'm also going to put Dennis in there, but I'm going to put Corey Whelan, because I think he's going to get on the end of one of those corners and score it this time. And Owen Moxon to get the winner to send us to Wembley. That's what I'm going with. It's a 3-1 win. Right, let's hear Mike's prediction for this one.
I'm going to go for an absolute thriller, 2-1 win, goals from Joe Garner and Owen Moxon, take it to pens in front of the Warwick, and absolute scenes when Thomas Holy saves the pen to take us to Wembley.
Well, he's not allowed the penalties bit. That doesn't count towards it. It's only the scoreline. It's a 2-1 he's going for.
Yeah.
Ooh, there you go. He got the nerves, to be fair. He went 0-0 for the first leg, didn't he? So there you go. Right, X-Files section, Dan. Not much to cover, is there, this week?
No. Stefan Skugel had a good game for Alloa in 5-2 defeat at Hamilton. They went 2-0 up, and Hamilton scored 4 in 8 minutes, and then just again after the start of the second half to win 5-2.
Well,
and he missed a penalty, which was saved, but then netted the rebound from a yard out.
Yeah, he literally spanned back across goal, and he literally just ran up and smashed it in.
Yeah,
it's a weird one, this one, because I think Alloa had a man sent off. I don't know if it was between the first and second goals or after that.
I think it was from memory, yeah.
Now, Hamilton should have had their keeper sent off for the penalty. Yeah. If you watch it back, basically, Connor Salmon on the touchline gets around the keeper. Basically, the keeper messes it up. Connor Salmon's getting away from the keeper, and he grabs his foot and drags him down. There's no attempt to go for the ball. So how the referee can say that as an attempt to go for the ball? I think Hamilton got a little bit lucky in that sense, but there you go. So, yeah.
Yeah, and a little bit of 3 players promoted in the 3 different National League playoffs. Kedwin Scott for Notts County scored the winning penalty in the shootout.
I mean, they had some drama in their games, didn't they, in these playoffs? Yeah. My word.
Yeah. Nathaniel Knight Percival with Kidderminster, who won their last 6 games to sneak in the playoffs and came through the playoffs and won.
Brilliant.
And Canice Carroll for Oxford City in the National League South. And Oxford City actually caused uproar because they were on course to be the team that went from the south to the north when they redrew the line. But because they got promoted, Bishop Stortford, adjacent to Stansted Airport, now find themselves in the National League North playing Blythe and South Shields.
Bishop Stortford is further south than Stevenage and Luton.
Yeah.
But they're right next to the M11, and I think that's the reason they got picked over Braintree, who are a little bit further east. So, yeah, it's bizarre what's happening in those National League. But see people complain about it. It's like, well, what are they meant to do? There's not much else they can do, is there really? It's just the way it is. It's all lopsided. So there you go. But there, Carroll, God, there's a net blast from the past, isn't there? He has had some fall from grace, hasn't he, in his career?
Yeah.
To being signed for big money to Brentford, and then, I mean, his loan spell for us was a disaster, wasn't it, really, when you look back at it? Sent off on his debut and never recovered from that point, did he?
He's still only 24-year-old.
That's just astonishing.
He's been at Oxford a good while now, 2 seasons he's done. So.
Wasn't he at Queen's Park for a bit as well in Scotland? I seem to remember. Yeah, he's a strange one, isn't he? Because he started out Oxford United, and then he went, I think, to Brentford from there. I think he had a loan spell at Swindon or something, didn't he? So, anyway, he's had a strange old career as Earl Knies. That's it then, Dan, isn't it? Last one before the playoff second leg, possibly the last preview of the season. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed. Touch wood.
Depending on Saturday, we will either have another preview, or we'll have our end of season roundup with the released retained list and discussions about other teams who've done such.
Yeah, and we'll if that whatever happens once the final game of the season is out of the way, whenever that is, we'll be doing our little end of season awards, won't we? So we'll be putting a poll out for you guys to give us your player of the season, so the listeners play the season.
Yeah, the listeners play.
But also there'll be a host's player of the season, so we're going to have a little discussion amongst ourselves on whatever episode it is to pick who we think is our.
We're going to pick 3 different players, aren't we?
Yeah, 3 different. Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll maybe throw 3 into one each into the pot, and we'll see, who have a little discussion about who we think should get it. So we'll be putting a few things out. Once that final episode's done, we will be taking a couple of weeks break, I think, won't we? Just to let things cool down.
Once we get, basically we've got 1 or 2 more episodes, haven't we, depending on Saturday. Then we will what we usually do is when the fixtures come out, we'll record an episode which will be any transfers, fixtures, friendly details, and then we sort of do one to cover the friendlies, don't we?
And we might do some like emergency pods if something exciting happens.
Yeah, something major happens.
Obviously, hopefully not a manager leaving for once or something like that. Maybe like a big transfer happening or something like that. We might do little ones, just short ones to cover it off. But there you go. So anyway, fingers crossed for Saturday. I hope everyone really enjoys the game. Whatever happens. And just like we said, just remember where we were last February. I know it's an easy thing for us to say and but you sometimes just need to remember how far we've actually come in a space of 12 months. And it's been a really, really big step forward for this club, and
we're probably a year ahead of schedule, but the chances are, let's try and take it.
Exactly that. So there you go. Thanks everyone for listening. Slightly shorter episode than normal, but probably more easy to listen to, I think, in that sense. So there you go. Thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.